31.92%, that's last week's Sydney auction clearance rate, and we've now been under the 40% bracket now for over 100 days straight. And this week we saw headlines all over the shop. Some are saying collapse, some are saying correction, and the Treasurer, well, he says there's nothing to see here at all, but let's cut right through it all. G'day folks, it's Matt Hayson here, and this week has delivered wave after wave of bearish property headlines, so I want to break it all down properly. Australian property market downturn, Sydney and Melbourne house prices plunge in severe collapse. Gee, that's a dramatic headline, but when you read the actual data, this is from SQM research, it says that Sydney house prices have fallen 2.9% over the past quarter. That's a fall, it's not a collapse, and hold that thought. Where house prices are falling the most in Sydney and Melbourne. Now this article drills into the suburbs such as North Kilcoole, Bronte, Avalon, Coogee and Kensington, which are suggesting all down 15% from their peak. Mosman, well, that's down more than 12%. This is Cotality data in this instance, and it shows that Sydney's top quartile is down 5.7% since October last year. The downturn is deepening. Sydney house prices fall faster as clearance rates crash. This is Cotality data once again showing that Sydney values are down 1.1% in the last 4 weeks alone. This downturn does look like it is deepening as we move into winter. Last week's final auction clearance rate is likely to land around 41%, only a notch above the lowest figure Cotality has recorded since records began, says Tim Lawless, the research director at Cotality. That's the headline everyone is running, but over at SQM Research, and if you followed our reports, you'll know that we are now at week 13 of the clearance rate sitting below 40%. Last week, it landed at a paltry 31.92%. And for context, back in 2020, when COVID hit and Sydney went into lockdown on March 29, the auction clearance rate dipped under 40%. Now it stayed there for just 5 weeks. This year, the same week, March 29, the clearance rate also dipped under 40% once again. But we're still there today, over 100 days later. Now, the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, this week has said, we're not in a technical correction. Mate, catch up. This is absolutely a market correction. Domain, well, they've jumped in too. House prices could fall by as much as $122,000 in the 2027 financial year. Now, I love these numbers. They're always so precise. $923,000, $921,000, $122,000 exactly. Now, that's based on 5 different modelling scenarios with Sydney prices forecast to drop by 7%. Now, my take on 31 years of being in this business, not one of these predictions will land anywhere near the mark. Now, here's where we actually stand. Listings, they are at the second highest level since 2010. Cotality's second worst clearance rate on record. SQM has us 100 days under the 40% bracket, and Sydney prices are down 1.1% in 4 weeks. Affluent suburbs, they're being hit hard. Mosman off 12%, some pockets down a whopping 22% from their 2021 peak. Now, agents on the ground are seeing values off a minimum of 10% since March, and sometimes 15% to get a deal done. Then over at NAB, CBA and ANZ, they are calling for the next RBA move to be a cut in 2027. Then yesterday, RBA hike back on the table as inflation creeps towards a 2-year high. Trim mean inflation, the RBA's preferred metric, has hit 3.6% for the year to May. That's the highest level since 2024. So it sounds like 3 major banks are about to be wrong again. So where does that leave you right now? Well, live in the now. Work out what you can afford to do today, not what the headlines are saying you should feel. If you wait for the noise to clear, you'll never make a move, and every person who's built something worth having has taken a risk to get there. So you need to crack some eggs to make an omelette, as they say, and that's exactly where this market is sitting right now. Buyers, well, they are frozen, but the data, it continues to lag, and the headlines, well, they rarely deliver as well. Talk to a reputable agent on the ground. They'll give you the real local read on what's happening in your market. If you strip it all back, supply is good. Prices, well, they've come off their peaks, and sellers, they are meeting the market, and the terms that they are offering are favourable. So if you see value and it's the right property, move on it. Take the long-term view. I can tell you, you will be fine. So that's what's going down in and around the market this week. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all next week.